On today's video, we're going to look at the requirements you need when you start crocheting. So when I started out, I had a 5mm crochet hook, yarn, and then there is the scissor that I started out with. But the problem is that it was too big, and it used to, especially when I'm using small yarn, it used to destroy the entire project. So I had to buy a smaller one. So this one is so easy to use because it can go like, it is easy to cut through a small size yarn. So you'll need a scissor, you'll need a hook, and you'll need yarn. So for the yarn, it's better to choose one that is bright in color because it's so easy to see when you're crocheting. Because if you use especially a black yarn and you're starting out, at times you might end up skipping some other stitches. And then when it comes to the hook, I started out with the 5mm one because it's easier, because compared with this one is a 3.5. If I had to start with this one, I would have problem because the stitch becomes so small compared to this one. And the project I'm working on right now, I'm using a 3.5mm hook, and because the stitches are so small, if you're starting out, you might end up skipping the stitches. So these are the essentials when starting out, but then when you continue improving, you'll need other things like a tape measure. You'll need a tape measure because let's say you're making a clothing, let's say you're making a top, you'll need to take your bust measurements. Let's say you're making a cardigan, you need to take arm length. Though at times you'll have to Google this length, but even if you Google, remember that when you're crocheting, like yes, I've Googled, I've known that the height is 20 inches. Even if I've Googled 20 inches, I'll still have to measure it so that I'm sure it has gotten into 20 inches. At times people usually say that you can try it on yourself to see where it is, but imagine you keep on trying on this item every other time for you to know if it fits. You can make work easier by just getting yourself a tape measure and measuring as you go. The other thing that you'll require is these stitch markers. I started out with I had 3, but then now I have almost 20 because I keep losing them. So you'll also need stitch markers, though I never had them when I started out, but I still was able to make clothing without the stitch markers because you can even use a string. Like you can just cut a piece of this yarn, then use it to mark a stitch. Like for this clothing that I'm making, like I had to mark here and here so that I can be able to know that which point will I need to turn. You can get yourself a couple of stitch markers, and then the other thing is a darning needle. This I found it necessary, especially when making beanies. So at first when I was making beanies, I used to just use slip stitches, but it never looked so neat. So especially if you're using an item whereby you want this upper part to form like, you getting me? So it's so easier to use a darning needle. On today's video, I just wanted to look at the main requirements because there are so many other things that we usually use when crocheting, but when starting out, don't stress yourself out. Just start with the main thing. Even if you just have a hook and a yarn, you can just start from there. Remember, there's a time I lost my scissors and I used to cut with my hands like this, so you can just start out with a hook and a yarn. Yeah. Thank you for watching this video. This is my first video, so I'll see you on the next videos whereby I'll be teaching you how to make a slip knot, how to make a foundation chain, and how to do the basic stitches, that is single crochet and double crochet. So see you on my next video, and don't forget to subscribe.